Okay, council mayor related items, council discussion goals. We definitely have some time permitting. So, anybody like to discuss anything?
Yeah, I had one thing for Jeremy. I think he's still
Sure, he's right here.
The General Assembly the other year said that we couldn't force people, the subdividers, to lay their asphalts in areas where it's never been laid. And I thought there was a time limit this year that they have to complete that. What is that time limit, Jeremy?
That time limit was July the 1st, and we had everything lined up for that, but the state legislature, they changed the code, the state code, and extended that till 2020.
So the people that live down there where Jake lives.
He did
All
it.
taken care of.
Oh, that's been done?
He didn't have to though.
Okay.
With
That's what I'm asking. I was down there a couple weeks ago and it wasn't finished. When it was done?
technically he didn't have to.
Okay. Because, I just want to make sure that we're protecting our,
Bow Lane was taken care of also.
okay.
correct.
Just want to make sure we're protecting our citizens
Absolutely.
in these subdivision ordinances, even though I know the General Assembly changed their laws.
I was quite frustrated with that when I found out
Yeah,
that
okay.
the extension happened, but then we found out that they were gonna use the same contractors as Leach Run and roll right into
Oh, great.
that development and finish it, and they did. They
I
did a
haven't
nice
been
job.
down there for the last couple of weeks, so that's great.
Yeah, they did a nice
It's kind of
job.
like Chris did the last time when the council, I think Daniel Pond was on council, and the way he went in and paved out, and then they were using pads to move the equipment around and stuff, trying to protect it too, so.
And in that particular development, a lot of those homes were already completed too.
Yeah,
I mean, they finished quite a bit.
Okay, nothing else coming before council? Good.
I just wanted to mention
Go ahead, Jake.
that that there's well, I guess you're going to be having a meeting tomorrow about it, but there is still conversation happening through business owners, not as an initiative of town council, related to turning the main street into a one-way street. And again, you are having a meeting tomorrow, is that correct?
Yes, we're having a meeting with Vice Mayor T-Walt, myself, Joe, a couple staff members are going to be here. I understand, who else did we invite, Joe?
Rob McDougal.
Rob McDougal, he'll be here. That meeting is going to be preliminary, fact-finding, cost.
So that it will be on a work session for all council
August
to
the
be a part of
7th.
it? Okay, August the 7th.
August the 7th, yes, sir.
Okay.
There seemed to be some confusion because Mr. McDougal contacted me and very concerned that council was going to discuss without them making a presentation. So somehow there was a miscommunication.
I think we sewed that up. You and I had talked about it, and then they came to Joe with the presentation that they were going to give us. And then we're going to, like I told you, we're going to move forward with meeting them to get some of the rough edges. There's some questions that needs to be answered, and
I think, I understand that. I think sometimes we gotta be careful though, if we have if a group like that wants to bring something before council, and part of council goes and meets with them first, then there's a perception out there that, half the group's gonna get it, and then have time to either mount arguments one way or another before the whole group gets it, and be able to discuss it as a whole. So I think we have to be careful of that sometimes. I understand what we're trying to do and help them.
They met with me first and I asked you for the direction and you told me to have them go to
yes. And they
the
went
town
to Joe.
manager.
Mhm.
And now I find out that I'm not part of the meeting tomorrow and I was the one that was championing it for 'em.
Well, we can't have 3 members. We can only have the mayor, which I set the agenda. And I make sure
Yeah, I
everything
hear
is-
you again, but
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I was the one that championed it for them.
Well, August 7th, we'll
I
be able to
wasn't
champion
invited.
for them.
Okay,
Well, see, we can't invite you because we already have the vice mayor.
I'm just telling you.
Mr. Mayor, I will relinquish my seat and give it to Mr. Seelock if he would like to attend in my place.
Would you like to come?
I'd like to attend.
Okay. 11 o'clock.
You're excused for tomorrow, and Bill, we're going to be here at 11 o'clock.
I'll be here.
And Bill, on the confusion of the work session, I don't know who on my staff gave out that information, but that was a draft schedule that was given out for last week's agenda. Should have never been never been told to the public because it was just a draft. So
So how he
I
called me in
solved
the
that
parking
issue.
lot.
I solved that issue today, and hopefully that will not happen again.
All right, thank you.
And to make sure there's no perception that Bill and I are going to be meeting with the group, I wanted this meeting because we need to get these rounded edges toned up, so when we come to August the 7th, then we'll have the information to give to the council as a whole. So when I set that agenda, then we at least know what we're talking about, so.
Okay.
And
I think that some of the confusion came, Joe, just because, you know, Bill had mentioned this to put on a work session agenda, I don't know, 6 weeks ago,
Something
like
yeah.
that. And so maybe on our end, we need to be really clear when we bring a topic up in this particular session of the work session, that we understand what timeline is going to be being on a work session in the future. Because I think that was part of it, and then they might have gotten a different date confused, and then it just felt like the perception, it seemed to me, was that the can was just getting kicked down the road, and they wanted an opportunity to present to all of council. So I know what we're doing. We're trying to help them along the way and trying to make sure that it's as best path as possible. I'm just bringing up some of the confusion that came
Absolutely,
with it.
no problem.
So,
And when you set an agenda, you have to understand the mayor, when I do set an agenda, we've already got stuff like tonight, we're moving things forward to a future agenda that has to be in. So the window kind of narrows sometimes, and then when we don't have the sufficient information, yeah, they have all their information to feed us, but then we don't have anything to.
so when we want to put something on
Work with.
a work session agenda for you, Hollis, do we need to get that to you 2 weeks prior to that work session? 3 weeks prior? Do you have a particular time frame if you guys are working
If
on
there
a
is an
draft?
informative communication that needs to be conveyed to everyone, we need a couple weeks out
Okay.
to make sure staff has adequate time. You also have to give the applicant that's coming before council adequate time to put their plan together. If it's something that's small, like we've done with, just squeezing it in,
Oh, yeah.
and we do that, but yeah, we need to make sure that everybody has a fair amount of time to prepare, because we don't want to get caught without any knowledge of what's going on. We haven't even seen anything yet, so.
I believe the town code stipulates that the deadline for a council member or the public, I believe, to request an item to be put on the agenda is the Tuesday prior to the meeting. I believe at noon. I think that's correct.
Yes, but I don't think it was written with Mayor Tharp, because Mayor Tharp is going to be trying to be as convenient as I can possibly be and accommodating to our public. So.
The mayor does have the discretion, according to the code, to
Yes.
add something even though it's in after the deadline. But that would be the hard deadline, anything before noon, the Tuesday prior to the meeting.
But I will not put anything on the agenda that staff is not prepared to answer. Okay?
It's just strange that I'm not accosted in the parking lot, but he was very vocal that there was this meeting and council was discussing ahead of their presentation, and that's not right.
I don't think.
That's not the way it's been. Then I find out tonight that I wasn't even invited to the meeting.
Yeah.
So that, to me, is very troubling.
I don't think we've touched on Main Street, Bill. There's been no meetings here, no council members, nobody.
He was prepared to come tonight because
Right, he was prepared, but we're not prepared. We need to be prepared, so when he comes.
I'm not going to beat the dead horse,
Yeah.
but
That's fine.
I think I made my.
Well, there may be some things that if there is a particular topic of interest, the business owners or for instance might have something that they want to pitch to council. Staff's not going to have all the answers when somebody comes in and does a pitch to council. In my opinion, that's going to be more of them sharing their vision or information that they want to share with us and give us something to think about. And at that time, maybe staff would have an opportunity to respond to council or whatever over the period of weeks following to say, hey, there's some real problems with that, or that sounds great, let's do it, or whatever. But
Just depends on what avenue you want to use, whether you put the corp.
I mean, it depends on the topic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it depends
Yeah,
on the seriousness of
it's
it.
every day. We're all here to do what we can absolutely do for all the citizens, and I found it a little bit strange that Mr. McDougal didn't mention it to me with the conversations I've had with them on Main Street. So, you know, I don't know why they championed on Bill, but that's okay. As long as it gets before council, we'll talk about it and we'll discuss it and we'll move forward with it.
I have a couple more things.
Yes, sir.
If that's okay.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Number one, I just wanted to bring up that in light of us trying to move up our budget to be discussing it, I think we've even talked about something as early as September, about October, November this year. I have requested from Joe to get some kind of forecasting for health insurance plan changing. If we made moderate changes this year, next year, the year following, basically a 5-year plan. And I wanted to bring it up tonight just so that you all can be aware that as soon as that draft comes in from staff, I would like to start looking at that as a council and starting those conversations well ahead of the budget, because it's one of the biggest ticket items on our budget. And knowing how our budget process goes now, having gone through it a couple times, we're going to need all the time we can
Very
possibly get.
cumbersome, yes.
And I want to make sure we're well positioned so that we can make changes if need be to the plan at the appropriate time for the budget year, and not rolled into a now 2018 initiative, since we've been talking about it since 2016.
So your idea is to start talking about it. Now, I've spoken with BJ, and he says moving the discussions back, we may be able to maybe squeeze 30 days. Is that what you're looking at, BJ, is moving the budget talks back?
Well, I wasn't trying to move the budget back. This is going to be a component of the budget.
Right, yeah, just to
and I wanted to
discuss.
start talking about this specific
Yes,
component.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. John?
Joe, I believe we asked for that quite a while ago, at least a few months ago. Do we know when it might be that we can get that kind of an estimate of a kind of graded steps we can take trying to control costs moving forward?
Right, I did have a discussion with Julie Bush last week. She wasn't in today, but I will get with her tomorrow. This should be a quick deliverable. I know she's been working on it.
Joe, I guess council wants to get some pieces.
Right.
So that when we get to the big part.
You'll have this by next Monday,
Yeah.
if that's
And
acceptable.
Joe's
Thank you.
communicated
Yeah.
that to me, so it was more along the lines of making council aware that it's my intention that this get brought up here, and that we start discussing this well ahead of the budget, because I think that it's a piece that's just going to take a lot more time. It's going to have a large impact on our staff, and if we're able to give more time to it, I think the better served everybody will be.
Okay. Next?
Last thing,
No problem.
I'm really
Yeah,
excited
fine.
about the 6th Street repairs. Is that still on for the 1st of August, first week of August-ish?
Our fingers are crossed.
Yeah,
I mean,
if they show up to
they're
do
coming.
it. Yeah. This is more, I've had communications with Joe about this. I tend to want to bring these things up in the work session just to let the public know more. But we've talked about the Shenandoah Shores track being blocked and getting a resolution. The town has sent a letter to, remind me again, Railroad.
Gentleman Bentley.
Northwest 7, yeah. And so they had not responded to that the last, is that correct, Joe?
That is correct, and we also have, the chief of police was trying to get a hold of that gentleman last week when we had an incident, just blocking the tracks going down to the farm, wastewater treatment plant. And they're being non-responsive even by phone now.
So my question now is, we've sent an official letter. We've had a couple major blockages on Shenandoah Shores. Doug, is there any recourse we have where we can escalate this another step? I feel like that this is just becoming a bigger and bigger hindrance to us. I feel like that there's a lack of seriousness being considered on the other end.
I think the town manager has had a discussion with the county administrator, and rather than me repeat hearsay, I'll let the town manager tell you
Yeah.
from the horse's mouth.
I was talking with Doug Stanley last week about this issue, and he was telling me something. I was unaware of this, but sometime in the past, when Norfolk Southern was not reacting to any of these issues, they started to try to get something in the legislative change, something changed in the legislature that would add some meat to them to be able to stop the railroad from doing all this. And that actually brought the railroad to the table, and they axed that initiative. But that may be something that we need to readdress.
Well,
Have some teeth.
I've heard business owners say that they're ready to collaborate, not with us necessarily, necessarily on their own, and threaten a lawsuit against them because of loss of business. And so I don't think before it goes that direction, I would want to know that we've tried everything we possibly can to get them to the table.
Is it possible to reach out to Congressman Goodlette's office and see if maybe there's some progress we can make there? I mean, the railroads are federally regulated, and that's why they pay absolutely zero attention to local needs when the time comes.
I think that would be a great idea to reach out to our congressman and for that matter, our General Assembly representatives and copy the railroad people that we've done that. That would be the first step, I think.
Sending a strong message would be absolutely the right direction to go. I know the county has beat themselves up because it all generally happens in the county, and people are backed up, buses are backed up, kids can't get home, I mean, it's definitely a problem. And I was just not funning around, but horsing around with Joe, and I said instead of having a caboose on the end, they should have another engine, so when one engine breaks down, you know, the other one can push it out of the way. But
Well, and
What needs to be underscored, really, for me, is that this is way bigger than a loss of business issue.
Oh, it is.
That, I mean, when
Oh,
that
from safety
last
issues.
year, when they were changing out the ties there, and they had that thing closed off schedule without preparation for hours, and they weren't allowing any vehicles through, like no police, no emergency response. I mean, this is life and death. If someone had, God forbid, a heart attack on Shenandoah Shores Road, they would have been unable to get to the hospital for hours because you can't land a helicopter down there in the shores where there's a ton of trees and everything on the
Right.
banks of the river. It's just a matter of time before something really bad happens, and I'd like to make sure we don't let it get to that point.
Yeah.
Alternatively, is there, maybe staff could help evaluate this, is there any opportunity for alternate routes in emergency situations so that we had a contingency plan in case of a scenario that John mentioned? I know this is a continued battle for us, but I don't think that would ever, bode well for us if we know that it's a continued battle and there wasn't a backup plan for us.
the only thing we have in the works is the east-west connector. I mean, that's 20 years, 30 years.
Right, so this is a public safety issue for me then, is I feel like we should start working on or developing or vetting out an emergency access route in the case of a train stopping dead on the tracks and
Well,
locking
the
us all good.
flyover for the Leech Run Parkway Phase 2 will solve the Shenandoah Shores problem, but it's not going to solve the problem for Mary Shady Lane and all the people who live back there.
But the
The
county's
only thing
also
that's
working on the
changed
flyover at Rockland.
The
But
only
that's
thing I was going to
15
change in
days.
Mary Shady Lane is going to be the connector road, or the east-west connector that is planned on the subdivision that we approved, what, a couple of years ago.
But there's still gonna be 2 tracks, right?
Oh, yeah.
It'd still be,
It's supposed to be.
I don't know if
it
that
should come
spans
up
that,
on the northern side of the track and then come down through where we just talked about, can come out at 8th Street, if that ever comes to reality. But that's pretty much left up to the subdivider in order to build the road to go through there.
I'd like to see us draft a letter to the congressman's office and copy our legislators and Norfolk and Southern. And if it needs to come before council for a resolution, I'd vote for it. I mean, if that's going to help, if that gives us some additional shot in your opinion, Doug, I wouldn't mind doing that at all.
Anything we can do to help has to be positive.
Joe's gonna comment on that.
I was just gonna say the problem's gonna get worse, because I think Amazon's going out there to, off Kelly Drive somewhere. I heard some type of distributor's going out there, and that's gonna increase train traffic tremendously. So it's just gonna get worse.
Nothing
All the more
ever-
reason why we should have a backup plan for it. Thank you for doing that,
If
appreciate
it
it.
has some deep pockets, we would definitely be, I think the county has gotten, what is that place out there where they transport back and forth on the train, going into the inland port, and then it goes down to Norfolk? I think those folks have talked about this also, and it
Well,
all comes down to finding money, and I would think if we joined with the county and
I mean, I wasn't trying to be too extreme with it, but I was also thinking of, a little bit more of that, public-private partnership of where even if there was old-fashioned dirt roads through people's property that they agreed in emergency situations, we'd pay a stipend to them to allow traffic for a one-time use to come through, something like that. I think
Sure.
that there's possibilities that people would work together knowing the circumstances.
Part of the issue working against you is the terrain is really rough.
Yeah, no,
out
I
there.
get
And that's why
that.
the roads go the way they do.
Gene, didn't they have a road from Mary Shady up through where they got the rock and stuff for
The quarry?
66, the old quarry there? There was a road that used to come up through there.
There was
There
one,
was
yeah.
no road there, but again, when that thing is blocked, it's not only blocking Shenandoah Shores, it's blocking Mary Shady Lane, it's blocking our facility, and it's also blocking that old quarry road
Sure.
that we actually traded to them to close that Depot Avenue down there.
Right.
And so really, when you think about it, there's no way to get across that railroad track as
Oh,
long as that
without a
train
problem.
is, because it's got all of them blocked at the same time.
Also,
Yeah, that's where the
Depot-
issues are.
Depot Avenue doesn't connect to Mary's Shady Lane because
No,
I-66
there's an
goes
old
through
There was an
quarry,
old dirt road
there was an old
used to
quarry
go,
off of
right.
Mary Shady.
Yeah, I see
That's,
it.
that's the one that they used when they did
Right.
66. It was a temporary,
But see, the problem is though, there's no way you get to there because
Right.
it's now owned by the railroad.
okay.
It's on, the Depot Avenue was given to them for whatever reason, I can't remember exactly. But we traded that for something else in order for them to close it.
We kept it right away for
Kept-
sewage and water or something.
Kept it right away into our pumping station, which is down there on the.
Well, Jake, thank you for, actually, that was a good discussion to have.
Well, can I end it on a bad one for you?
Sure, why not?
No, my turn.
Again, just more for public record, but we've had residents of Richmond Road come out and speak at a couple public hearings now, and we've had a few conversations related to the noise ordinance and UPS. But so, is there a work session or meeting that's going to be in the near future where we're going to be discussing this?
Yes, it'll be on the
Come to
next
resolution.
agenda
Perfect.
and closed
Perfect.
because of possible litigation.
And I thought you had communicated that, but again, I think the importance of noting that it's a closed meeting because of the purpose of litigation is important for everybody to
Absolutely.
understand as well.
Transparency has nothing to do with it.
Right.
It's all litigation. Mr. Seelock.
All right, I'm happy to report that we have residents on Evelyn Court that are glad something happened. But they don't know what happened. And I don't even know what happened. I just know a hole was dug and they put asphalt in and then they went back and dug it up again and put more asphalt in. Can I get some insight into that so I can advise these people?
I can get you a written report by tomorrow, or you can get a verbal right now. Jimmy,
I prefer a verbal, then I can talk to
Jimmy, you
them.
prepared to give them a verbal?
I can give someone, they went down there to check for a leak. They dug a hole, they cannot find the leak on the town line. They tested the water, did not test town water, tested groundwater. They went back up, dug again, make sure, so it's gonna be tested again. I don't have a full, it's right on the limits of being town water. So we don't wanna fully.
There were two places repaired, and if you go down to the bottom of the court, there's a sinkhole down there.
And see, it's kind of looking like groundwater running down the hill, and it's following the line, the water line, because it's not testing close to town water. By the way, the water plant takes water tests through the residents' houses, we can tell what's coming from where, and that's nowhere close to what the residents, in that area being tested. I can get Joe more of a report on what's coming.
I don't need any more of that right now.
If it's that much water, is there loss of pressure to notice that?
That's a pressure, that's actually a pressure zone off the pump station on that upper side.
So you would know.
Yeah, sure. When we put those water lines in, because I was here and directed those work,
Thank you, Jimmy.
see, all those lines are bedded in well, we call it 21/8 stone, which is a compactable stone. And when you do get a lot of moisture in there, it'll follow that stone area to the lowest point. And I think that's why I said today you got a sunken spot down there. That's right there at that storm drainage.
Yeah, it's right
And
there.
I have a feeling that it's washed some of the soil out from the
You got a
water
big-
going down
like a
through
sink
those
area.
areas that Jimmy's talking about and creating a problem in that area. And you might find there's also some fracture in the storm drainage at that point of the box, that there's a drainage box there as well in that area. So it might be some of the soils leaving and going into the storm drain, causing that thing to settle.
Kind of like the piping from the storm drain that comes down and
Well, yeah.
separates, and then when all the water comes in.
Yeah, the asphalt is sinking down there right over top of, looked like over top of the actual storm drainage, because I live right there, right above it there, like Bill does. So I went down and looked at it, and that's what it appears to me. Without
Sure,
digging
you
it
know,
up like
it's
Jimmy's
one,
doing, you
two,
don't know.
three, when you look at it.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm concerned about communication properly, because, you know, they don't know. And if I don't know, how do I respond to them? So, we gotta communicate properly.
I
You know,
understand.
they're concerned, and rightfully so, they reported it. You know, you see water bubbling up in your front yard or in your street, and they report it. Then you don't see anything happen. And now, all they know is asphalt was put in. That's all they know.
All right, anybody else? John, would you lead us into close, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that town council convene and go into closed meeting for the following purposes. Regarding VML issues pertaining to Randolph and Avenue. Number one, discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds, where competition or bargaining is involved, where if made public initially, the financial interest of the governmental unit would be adversely affected, pursuant to section 2.2-3711A6 of the Code of Virginia. Two, discussion of the award of public contracts involving expenditure of public funds and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract. Discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, pursuant to section 2.2-3711A29 of the Code of Virginia. And three, consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, pursuant to section 2.2-3711A7 of the Code of Virginia, and pursuant to Virginia Code section 2.2-3711A1 of the Freedom of Information Act. 4, to discuss, consider, and interview prospective candidates for appointment to fill vacancies on the council, occasioned by the resignation of former town council member Bevan Egger.
Second.
Gene?
Yes.
Dick? Bill?
Yep.
Hollis, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Would y'all like to take 5 minutes? Anybody need 5 minutes?
I'll stretch.